and I taste the storm before I hear it. Ozone on my tongue, metallic and sharp, like a dare. The gallery doors yawn open and swallow me whole. Warm light, polished concrete, a hum of voices that never quite find words. My heels click a steady metronome that says confidence even when my pulse misbehaves. I'm not here for art, not really. I'm here for the way it rearranges a room. The way it makes people step closer than they mean to. The way it turns silence electric. You know that feeling. When the air lifts the tiny hairs along your arms and you pretend it's not because of the person standing too close to the same painting. Stay with me. Like and subscribe to the chaos if you're already leaning in. I see him at the far wall, the man I am not supposed to notice. Tall in a way that absorbs space without apology. The overhead lights stripe his jaw in clean geometry. He doesn't turn, but his attention shifts, like he felt my eyes land and behaved anyway. Restraint is its own heat. I keep moving until I'm beside him, exactly one breath apart. The canvas in front of us is a riot of blues, tearing at the edges like a storm learned to dance. It's loud and quiet at the same time. I stand with my hands clasped in front of me, then let them fall. Casual, intentional. You always choose the violent ones, he says, low and steady, like we're already mid-conversation. I don't look at him. They choose me? A beat. Then, do you want to be chosen? Do you? I tilt my head, the slow drag of perfume lifting between us. I know what it does. I weaponized softness years ago. There's a reflection in the glass that isn't paint. My husband's silhouette, a dark cutout near the bar, half turned toward the curator in a silver dress. Her hand floats near his sleeve, then settles, then lingers. A careful choreography. I file the image away like a match I don't plan to strike. Not yet. Walk with me, the man beside me says. It's not a question. He waits anyway. I move first. We drift through rooms like we invented the pace, past a sculpture that looks like a spine that learned to smile, past a diptych of faces that don't belong to each other and still find a way. The crowd thins near the back. The storm outside presses its face to the glass, curious. He stops before a photograph that's almost black. You have to let your eyes adjust to find the woman standing in the rain, sleeve clinging to her wrist, fingers spread as if catching lightning. She's not waiting, he murmurs. She's deciding. So am I. And I can feel your breath hitch, because you know exactly what I mean. He turns toward me fully. It shortens the world. My shoulder meets the wall, not trapped, anchored. His hand lifts, pauses, then chooses the empty space next to my face, forearm vertical, knuckles near the frame. He doesn't touch me yet. He sets the distance like a line on a map. I stand inside it like a country that might revolt. Tell me if you want me to move, he says, and it's infuriating how much that permission unraveled me. Across the room, the curator is laughing too closely into my husband's throat. He leans in to say something near her ear, the soft press of the moment measured like they practiced. My mouth holds still. My spine does not. Don't move? I tell him. We don't. Not immediately. We let the lightning build a map of us first. Sound rolls in late, the sky's applause arriving after the flash. That's what this is. The echo of a decision already made. He shifts his weight just enough that his knee brushes mine, a whisper of contact that feels louder than a confession. I don't step away. I tilt my chin so our eyes line up like a horizon he has to cross. Tell me, he says, breath threaded with storm. If this is a bad idea, it's the idea. I smile without softening. And now it's a problem. He exhales like someone who likes problems on purpose. Close your eyes for a second and feel it with me, the slipstream between risk and gravity. The way every nerve goes bright when you're 2 millimeters from changing your life. Drop a comment if you tip forward or plant your heels. I'll pretend I'm surprised. Footsteps enter the frame behind him. My husband, he's not alone. Silver dress curator is at his shoulder, the air around them carrying the lime-sweet bite of her drink. He clocks the distance, me and not a stranger, and something in his jaw decides to hold. Enjoying the show? He asks. His voice is calm. It's almost funny. Immensely, I say, meeting his eyes. The lightning chooses that exact second to rip the sky open behind him. The room stutters white, and we're all outlines. When it settles, everyone's closer. The man beside me doesn't drop his arm. He doesn't make a scene. He just breathes in a way that confirms he has a pulse, and I match it because I do too. The curator smiles like she's found a live wire. The back room is open tonight, she says. To my husband, but also to me, to the way the four of us arrange without permission. Private collection. It lands like an invitation and a dare. I'm the one who nods first. Let's see it. We move as a set, magnetized and misaligned, the storm scraping the windows with wet fingers. The back room isn't large, but it carries quiet like a secret. No labels, no guards, heavy door, thick air. The kind of space that asks you to lower your voice even when you're not speaking. There's a bench in the center, not meant for sitting. We sit anyway. I take the end. The man not meant for me takes the corner beside me, knee already brushed against mine. My husband stands, then thinks better of it, and lowers himself to the opposite end. The curator perches near him, her perfume like a silver ribbon through heat. We don't look at the walls. We look at each other not looking at the walls. Is this where I'm supposed to pretend I don't know what's happening? My husband says, mouth curved without softness. No, I say. This is where you decide what you'll do about it. He lets that hang for 3 heartbeats. The curator tracks it like a metronome, and when the last beat lands, she sets her palm on his knee. Not provocation, placement. I see his eyes drop to her hand and stay. Beside me, the man exhales with purpose. His fingers find the edge of the bench between us. I lay my hand over his knuckles. Warmth carries a message before words ever can. He doesn't squeeze, he holds. The difference matters. I could leave, I say, quiet, honest. I could walk out of here and take the storm with me. He turns his head until his mouth is close enough to challenge my composure. Or you could let it hit. This is the part where some of you will ask for permission on my behalf. It's sweet. It's unnecessary. Watch the pacing. Watch the way I said it. I shift my hips the smallest degree, and the seam of my dress slides against the skin of my thigh. His breath changes shape. I can feel his restraint like a hand on my sternum, steadying, not stopping. I lace our fingers and push them down to the bench until the bones in our hands know they have a job stay. Across the bench, the curator leans toward my husband, her shoulder grazing his arm. He doesn't pull away. He does that thing where he squares himself like he's about to lift something heavy. I've always loved that about him. How he readies, how he holds. You want to tell me what you're doing? He asks, but it's for the room, not just me. Yes, I say. I'm deciding with my body what my mouth already knows. Hick is? He's good at pulling threads. That I'm not here by accident. Nobody moves for a beat that bends long enough to count. Then the storm makes its decision for us and kills the lights. Darkness is not silence. It's the sound of an entire room inhaling at once. It's breath finding breath, heat finding heat, the soft crime of fabric shifting, emergency lights cough awake, weak and red, turning us into evidence. I lift our joined hands and place them on my thigh. It's not subtle. It's not polite. It is clear. Right there, I tell him. Don't wander. I like the way his control answers mine. He anchors, spreads the warmth of his palm, and holds position. My muscles settle around the certainty of it. My husband's eyes find mine across the red-lit room. No accusation, just recognition. Then his gaze drops to our hands, and something in his mouth opens like he's about to argue with the weather. He doesn't. He turns toward the curator and says, pitched for only her, "Show me where you want me." She obeys. Not fast, not slow. She takes his wrist gently, deliberately, and places his hand at the small of her back, then steps closer until his fingers accept the work of keeping her there. He holds. He doesn't squeeze. He keeps. The difference matters here, too. If you're counting power like it's currency, stop. This is choreography. This is breath math. This is everyone managing their gravity without dropping their names. I guide the man beside me closer with nothing but a tilt of my chin and the confidence that he will follow the angle. He does. His thigh presses into mine fully now. The bench becomes a narrow geography we have to share on purpose. I turn, and the line of my shoulder grazes his chest. The contact is clean, not clumsy. He adjusts to make room for me, and there it is again, that steady presence, the one I can lean toward without falling. "Tell me when to stop," he says. I take his wrist and move his hand an inch higher along my thigh. "I will. What do you do with a moment that feels like a confession and a dare? You breathe it into your bones and let it rearrange your furniture. You press like a question. You hold like an answer. Drop your take below if you're still with me. You are. I feel it." The door opens. A guard's voice slices the red. "Power's out across the block," he says, apologetic and bored. We're closing up. No one stands right away. We all look like we're pretending to consider the art again. We're not. We're writing our names in the fog of the moment, deciding which letters we'll keep when we walk back into the white light. "After party?" The curator offers, too bright. She's braver than she was 10 minutes ago. That's on me. I'm not sorry. I stand, and the man's hand slides off my thigh like a secret returning itself. I miss the weight immediately. I don't reach back for it. I smooth my dress and step toward the door without looking behind me. I trust the sound of the steps I want to follow. They do. The storm spits us onto the street. The city shines like it's been polished, rain clinging to every surface, neon sliced into ribbons on the pavement. My husband lifts his face into the wet and lets it soak his jaw. The curator laughs, the sound bright enough to bounce. "Your place?" the man asks, quiet enough to be mistaken for a thought. "My rules," I say. We cross in a diagonal that makes cars reconsider their speed. We climb stairs that remember the weight of every story that ever climbed them. My keys stick for a second, then surrender. The door swings. The apartment smells like citrus and rain, like the soft fatigue of a couch that's kept secrets for years. Inside, everything is slower. I like that. I lower the lights to a film of shade. I take off my shoes and leave them pointed toward the door like proof I meant to return. 4 bodies become a small city, all edges and intersections. I ask, because practical care is not the opposite of hunger. "Yes," the curator says. "Please." Her voice cracks on the second word and cures itself midair. I pour. I pass glasses. The man doesn't take his until I ask with my eyes. He meets the question with a hold and steps closer. The glass kisses the counter. Our hands are empty again. I nod toward the living room. That's where we go. We don't tumble. We assemble. I stand at the edge of the rug. My husband stops in front of me. The curator ghosts at his side, one hand near his ribs. The man finds his place behind me and a little to the left, like he's reading the map of my shoulder blades. "I'm going to say it once," I tell them. "Everything that happens here is decided and anchored. If I move you, you stay until I move you again. If you move me, make it because you can hold me there." 4 nods. Lightning draws a white seam along the window and stitches us to the present. I reach for my husband first, always. My palm finds the center of his chest, the familiar plane that has been home longer than my favorite sweater. He breathes into my hand like an oath. I slide down, slow, until my fingers hook the edge of his belt and straighten. A reset, a claim, not ownership, orientation. He exhales. He says. I answer, and the soft smile we allow each other lives and dies in one heartbeat because there's more work to do. I pivot. The man behind me is already where I thought he'd be, aligned with my shoulder, respectful of the hinge of my elbow, and I let my back touch the warmth of him, just a graze that rewires my spine. His hand hovers near my hip. He doesn't place it. He waits. I take his wrist and lower it to the curve where dress becomes thigh. Here, I tell him. Steady. Across from us, the curator chooses the side of my husband that faces the window. She is careful. She is not timid. She slides her fingers up his forearm until his hand opens, then sets his palm at the small of her waist and steps into it. He holds. His thumb learns the slope of her dress like geography class finally got interesting. The room finds a pulse. No one rushes. No one narrates. I hear rain sift itself into the gutter like change poured onto a counter. I hear 4 sets of lungs sink into something almost choral. I need you to do something, I say to the man behind me without turning my head. Trace a line. Where? Start at my shoulder. Use one finger. Don't lose contact. His touch arrives like a private comet, a single line of heat from shoulder to wrist, a quiet punctuation along my forearm, then down, inside elbow, soft bend, wrist, palm. I open my hand and let his fingertip find the center, then close around it, not to capture but to hold the end of the sentence. I place both our hands on my thigh again. The muscle there wakes up and says yes. My husband watches the map being drawn on my skin. The curve of his mouth cuts into something that looks like acceptance braided with want. He looks at the curator like she's answered a question he wasn't ready to ask, and then he looks back at me like I'm the answer anyway. I step into him, close enough that the front of my dress takes his heat. I tilt my face until we're breath close, and I rest my forehead against his for one count, the old language. He lifts a hand to the back of my neck. Not claiming, completing. I didn't know I missed that kind of completion until my knees praised it. Don't move, I tell him, and then I move the rest of the room around him. And I back up and bring the man with me by our joined hands, his palm anchoring at the curve of my leg. I circle us until the four of us form a loose square, and then I compress it. Shoulder, shoulder, knee, knee, breath, breath. The rain drums approval on the glass, and somewhere a horn declares itself to a street that doesn't care. Closer? I say, to all of it, to the night, to the way indecision melts when heat shows up with receipts. We close. The curator's hand finds my wrist. The kindness of it surprises me so cleanly I have to catch my balance with a laugh that doesn't sound like defense. She squeezes once, and then she lets go, like a baton handoff in a relay we didn't plan to run. We build something that isn't a spectacle. It's a practice, a study in steadiness, hands placed and kept, breath measured and shared, heads tilted into the shape of trust, no frenzy, no apologies, a slow architecture of consent and pull. At some point, music starts on the speaker I didn't remember turning on, low, no words, a bass line that snakes between ankles. We move with it because the body always wants to resolve toward rhythm. If you know, you know. And if you don't, you do now. The man behind me says my name like it's a direction. My husband says it like it's a place. The curator doesn't say it at all. She says, yes, into her own shoulder and then breathes out like maybe she's been waiting to be this version of herself somewhere safe. I'd give you every detail if I thought it would help, but that's not the point. The point is warmth where you ask for it, weight where you promise to hold it, and the relief that blooms when no one tries to pull more than they can carry. The storm spends itself without our permission. The city exhales. The power grid remembers its job. The lights in the building across the street blink awake, one apartment at a time, squares of yellow stitched into a quilt. Our room stays low and dim because we're still busy being a different kind of visible. Eventually we loosen. We don't separate. We just widen the space enough to see each other whole. I step back and feel 4 points of gravity tug, and then release. My skin hums in a way I'll still notice in line for coffee tomorrow. My mouth tastes like citrus and rain, and the clean after of a sentence that finally found a period. No one rushes to define anything. We collect glasses and set them in the sink, like we're participating in the oldest domestic ritual known to heat. The curator finds her clutch under the chair. The man runs a hand through his hair and leaves it messy. My husband sits on the arm of the couch and studies me like a painting he's seen 1,000 times that just developed a new layer under certain light. Yar, you okay? He asks, simple as a porch light. Yes, I tell him. You more than okay? Do you want? He starts, and I cut him off with a nod that isn't a stop. It's a keep going later, when the city pretends it didn't see us. At the door, the man pauses. He waits for me to say something I don't owe. I walk to him, take his hand for 3 seconds, let our fingers interlock and inform, then drop them. You listened, I say. You led, he answers. Come back when I ask. He nods like a promise signed itself. The curator kisses my cheek. It's not performative. It lands like gratitude. You're alarming, she says, smiling with her whole mouth. You prefer a steady? I wink. We both know I'm both. They leave together, city wet and brighter than when they arrived. The hallway catches them and folds them into its ordinary. The door clicks. The apartment breathes. I turn. My husband is still on the arm of the couch. I step between his knees and let my hands find his jaw, thumbs pressing into the hinge where strength gets stored. He closes his eyes, then opens them, then says, "Was that enough?" "It was exact," I say, and watch the relief loosen his shoulders by degrees. I love him best like this, unarmed, certain, a man who can hold a storm and a glass of water in the same hand without spilling either. We sit together while the city dries itself. His hand lands on my thigh in the familiar place, the place I assigned earlier, and we both laugh at the way habits get rewritten in a single night if you let them. I lean into him. He leans back. We match our breathing on purpose, not to be dramatic, to be real. If you're still here, press the little heart like a secret between us. Drop a comment with the moment you felt it tip, and subscribe if you want the next chapter when I decide to open the door again. I don't give warnings, I give invitations. You're on the list now. Until then, keep your palms steady and your choices bolder than the weather.